Turtle pun. I can sit here and pretend that I've been a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan since childhood, but I'm gonna be honest. I've only been into the franchise for the past 3 years, and that's mainly because before the 2012 cartoon came around, none of the TMNT adaptations struck my fancy. By the time I got into action cartoons, the 80s version was too silly for my taste, and the 2003 series tried to be serious like the original source material, but it was under the worst possible network to try and do that. And it shows, especially in the later seasons. But we're not here to talk about that. In 2011, shortly after the rights to TMNT were sold to Nickelodeon, IDW started a new series of Ninja Turtles comics, with the majority of the issues being written by Kevin Eastman, one of the original creators of TMNT. The tone of the series is much like the original Mirage comics, dark and mature, but without the content limitations of TV. And a few months ago, I had the pleasure of reading the first hardcover collection, consisting of the first 12 issues of the main series and the first 5 issues of the micro series, and today I'll be covering my thoughts on this series after getting my first taste. Like every other TMNT adaptation, the IDW comics have their own interpretation of the Turtles' origin. In this version, Splinter and the Turtles are reincarnations of Hamato Yoshi and his 4 sons, and were raised in a lab run by Baxter Stockman, with April O'Neil working as an intern. When Splinter and his sons are exposed to the mutagen, an alley cat takes Raphael away despite Splinter's efforts to save him, leading into the first story arc of the comics, where the remaining Turtles have been searching for their missing brother for over a year. Like the MLP comics, the issues are broken up into story arcs, but unlike the MLP comics, they're all part of one ongoing story, and the arcs included in this collection mainly serve to introduce and reunite the core team, while also establishing franchise mainstays like April, Casey Jones, Karai, Baxter Stockman, and of course, the Shredder. What I really enjoy about these comics is that they incorporate elements from all the major iterations of the series thus far. Karai from the original comics, Bebop and Rocksteady from the 80s series, and I've read that characters from the 03 and 2012 cartoons will appear as well. They even had a cool way of nodding to the original comics by having all the Turtles wear red masks in the first story arc to symbolize their missing brother, before giving them their individual colors once Raphael is found. So far, these comics have a way of pulling from all these varying sources and making the necessary changes to fit the tone. And with the threat of Shredder being established in the last story arc of this collection, I'm looking forward to where the story goes from here. The cast of this series is pretty big, too big for me to cover every single character, so for the sake of this video, I'm gonna narrow it down to the 3 characters that stood out to me the most. First, there's Casey Jones. This version of Casey is a university student struggling to keep his sports scholarship due to his poor grades. After his mother dies of cancer prior to the series, his father fell into alcoholism, taking his frustrations out on his son. At first, what I liked most about this version of Casey was his friendship with Raphael, whom he meets after the Turtle saves him from another beating. While the two are similar characters, you really notice the differences between them when they're together, especially when Raphael starts to learn more from Splinter. But what eventually made Casey one of my favorites was his micro issue, where you see how much he loved his mother, and why he lets his father beat on him without even trying to fight back, despite the fact that he could win. You can tell that Casey is a character that tries. Whether he's trying to fulfill his mother's dying wish or trying to keep his scholarship, he puts his all into what he does, and it makes me want to root for him. Then there's Raphael. Admittedly, this pick is a little biased since he was already my favorite turtle, but I do enjoy his interpretation here. Even though his brothers had a whole year up on him in ninja training, he was able to catch up to them and hold his own in a sparring match. And while he is the roughest of the brothers, he still has a sense of honor, a sense that is strengthened by his reunion with Splinter, and in some cases, he can be more loyal to him than Leonardo. Last but not least is a character that's original to this series, Alopex. While she hasn't been featured that often in the first few arcs, I already like what they're doing with this character. Alopex was an Arctic fox that was experimented on by the Foot Clan, and her exposure to the mutagen turned her into a soldier for Shredder. Like Casey, I really enjoy Alopex's dynamic with Raphael, only their relationship is more of a rivalry than a friendship. As of now, she has an undying loyalty to Shredder, and believes that he saved her, but knowing Shredder, that most likely isn't true. I'll just have to wait and see where they go with Alopex from here, but I'm definitely looking forward to what the story will do with her next. Most of the artwork in this collection is done by Dan Duncan, and I have to admit, it took some getting used to. It looks great on the humans, but for the turtles, not so much. I was never fond of the fact that in most incarnations, the turtles are almost impossible to tell apart without their masks, and when the Nickelodeon series changed that, I was all for it. Now, going back to the old style of all the turtles looking mostly the same is somewhat disappointing, as it takes from the personality and individuality of the characters. However, the artists do change in the later arcs as well as in the micro issues, and some of them do add that variety in the brothers' designs, so at least I know what I'm in for soon enough. Other than that though, Duncan is still a good artist, and Rhonda Pattison makes some great color choices to establish the mood of each scene. I had a really good time reading these comics. Not only am I really invested in the main series, but even the micro issues brought some insight into their respective characters while also tying back to the main plot. And the best part is that this hardcover collection puts all the issues in chronological order, so there's no confusion as to when each micro issue takes place. Because of this, if you're looking to get into the IDW series, I highly recommend the hardcover collections. There are currently 2 volumes out right now, with the third one coming in August, and I'm actually reading through the second collection as of this video. I most likely won't be doing impressions on these later volumes though, since this is more of my thoughts on the entire series as a whole based on the first taste that I got with volume 1. Still, this was a really fun read and I hope the series gets better from here. So what do you think about the IDW Turtles comics? Have you read them? Are you interested in them? Swarm that comment section below or bug me on social media, and consider supporting me through Patreon or PayPal art commissions. Until next time, keep it sketchy folks.